I think Stormveil Castle is not truly Godrick's domain at all. Godrick may sit on the throne there, but almost nothing in that castle feels like it belongs to him. The storms are older than he is, the knights fight for traditions he barely understands, and something far more important than Godrick is buried beneath his feet. The truth is that the Stormveil Castle is the ruined inheritance of Godwyn the Golden. That is a claim I want to explain. Not that Godwyn built Stormveil, not that every storm symbol secretly refers to him, and not that the Elden Ring gives us a hidden item description saying Godwyn ruled here. My argument is narrowed, and I think more interesting. After Godfrey conquered the Stormlord, Stormveil likely passed into the Golden Lineage, and Godwyn was a member of that lineage most suited to inherit it. When I explored Stormveil, the strongest feeling I had was not that Godwyn ruled here, it was that he had lost control of it. The castle is collapsing. Its walls are cracked, opened by thorns and violent winds. Its soldiers are scattered across broken country yards. Its stormhawks are captured, mutilated, and fitted with blades. Its Banished Knights possess more dignity than the lord they supposedly serve. Even the road through the castle feels like an invasion of a place that no longer has a coherent master. Godrick calls himself the lord of all that is golden, but Stormveil doesn't reflect that identity. It actually reflects everything he lacks. The castle is ancient and Godrick is a derivative. The castle is military imposing, Godrick is remembered as weak. The Stormveil is tied to an older heroic age. Godrick survives by grafting the bodies of greater warriors into himself. Godrick's entire character is built around borrowed legitimacy. He borrows strength from severed limbs, he borrows the image of the Golden Lineage and the language of the kingship. And I believe he also borrows Stormveil Castle. Godrick doesn't seem like the creator of anything we see here. He appears more like the last degraded descendant to inherit a property whose meaning has already been forgotten. Godrick's presence supports the idea that the Stormveil belongs to the Golden Lineage, but it doesn't establish that the castle was uniquely his. And the question is not whether Godrick has a family claim. The question is whether his claim descends from a more important ancestor. And that ancestor could be Godwyn. This would explain why Godrick feels so small inside his own legacy dungeon. Stormveil is not designed to elevate him, it is designed to expose him. He is surrounded by evidence of conquest, warriors, storms, and inherited power, yet he personally represents none of this. His one defining ability is the ability to steal what belonged to someone else. That makes him perfect final ruler of a castle that was never truly his. Before Stormveil became a Golden Lineage stronghold, I think it belonged to an older storm culture. This is the least controversial part of the theory. Godfrey is said to have faced the stronghold alone. Stormveil is filled with stormhawks, wind-based combat, storm-related weapons and Banished Knight, whose traditions appear connected to a previous martial order. The castle's identity is not subtle. Stormveil is a fortress of the storm. But the key reframe is this. Godfrey's victory over the Stormlord doesn't mean Stormveil's history ended. It means the castle changed hands. That is how conquest usually works in Elden Ring. Old cultures are defeated, but their powers, rituals and symbols often survive inside the order that replaced them. The Golden Order doesn't only destroy, it absorbs. Crucible Knights still serve powerful rulers. Ancient dragon worship begins with war, but it is later incorporated into the capital. Defeated warriors became knights, prisoners, servants of relics of a new political system. So, after Godfrey defeated the Stormlord, I don't imagine Stormveil being abandoned. I imagine it becoming a conquered royal domain. There is a direct chain of inheritance. Godfrey defeated the Stormlord, claimed the land and title, and later passed that inheritance to Godwyn. Stormveil would therefore become Godwyn's castle through conquest and succession rather than construction. That idea initially sounds speculative, but it solves a major problem. It explains why Stormveil can belong to Golden Lineage while still preserving so much of its own storm identity. Godwyn wouldn't need to erase the old culture. In fact, his established story suggests he might do the opposite. Godwyn defeated 40 Sacs, but the result was not extermination. He befriended with the dragon. And that relationship eventually helped create a legitimate dragon cult within Leyndell. Godwyn's defining heroic act is not merely victory, it is integration. He takes an enemy power and brings it into a new political order that makes him uniquely suited to inherit the Stormlands. Godfrey could conquer Stormveil, Godwyn could transform the conquest into a stable inheritance. Under this interpretation, the Stormhawks, Banished Knights and Storm traditions didn't survive in opposite to Godwyn. they may have survived under him. That is the first escalation in the theory. Stormveil's storm identity doesn't disprove Golden Lineage ownership. It may reveal what Godwyn inherited. The theory becomes stronger when I stop searching for a single piece of proof and instead look at what kind of ruler Godwyn represents. Godwyn stands between systems. He belongs to the Golden Lineage, but he is closely associated with the ancient dragons. He is a royal champion, but his greatest victory ends up in friendship. He wields a golden lightning, a power that visually and symbolically belongs to the sky. After his death, even the lightning becomes corrupted into a storm of death. This doesn't prove that Godwyn was secretly the original Stormlord. I don't think that claim is supported. The more defensible claim is that Godwyn could have inherited the Stormlord's political position and transformed it into symbolism. The old storm belonged to a defeated ruler. Godwyn's storm would become golden. That distinction allows many clues to fit together without forcing them to mean more than they do. The Stormcaller Church stands near an ancient dragon monument. The name could simply refer to lightning, but it still places the language of storms beside the dragon tradition associated with Godwyn. The Death Lightning description connects Godwyn's golden lightning to a literal storm, now corrupted by death. This can be used to argue that Godwyn acts as a binding force between golden lightning, dragon worship, and cultures associated with storms. Godwyn's Death Knight also carry imagery that may resemble a hawk, although this is one of the more debatable visual clues. There is a theory that connects that shape to Stormveil's stormhawks and to Godwyn's solar associations. Another interpretation sees the design as a combination of dragon wings, eclipse imagery, Paramazula, and Golden Lineage axis. But to be honest, I don't think the entire theory could depend on whether that symbol is definitely a hawk. What matters is a pattern of overlap. Godwyn's followers combine imagery of gold, dragons, death, wings, and royal weapons. The storm culture combines birds, wind, lightning, exiled knights, and old military power. The symbols are not identical, but they repeatedly touch. This is exactly what I would expect if Godwyn inherited a conquered culture rather than originating it. His rule would not remove the old storm identity, it would place a golden lawyer over it. That may also explain the Banished Knights. Their presence across Stormveil Castle Sol and other politically important locations makes them difficult to assign to one single lord. They appear to be remnants of a broken military tradition whose loyalties changed over time. Such figures as Angwal and Oleg are connected to the Stormlord, while Commander Nile guards Castle Sol for long-dead master and coats himself in lightning. These relationships may be considered as an evidence of divided loyalties after the storm territories were conquered. That possibility is more convincing to me than the idea that every Banished Knight served Godwyn directly. The knights may have been originated under the Stormlord. Some may have accepted Golden Lineage rule. Some have remained loyal to older masters. And some may have served Godrick, Morgoth, or other rulers later. This would make Stormveil a place of inherited tension. Golden Lineage castle still defended by the descendants of the culture Godfrey defeated. And Godwyn, the prince known for turning a defeated enemy into an ally, is the only figure who could plausibly hold those contradictions together. Castle Sol is not Stormveil, but it may preserve the other half of Stormveil's history. Castle Sol is connected to Godwyn through the eclipse, the Stormhawk eggs, Commander Nile, and the concentration of Banished Knights. Sol is a surviving stronghold of an older sun and storm culture that may have resisted or outlived Godfrey's conquest. Wandering Mausoleum stands close to Castle Sol, and the ritual there may concern another dead demigod rather than Godwyn personality. The Stormhawk axe also appears outside Castle Sol. It may be a relic of Godwyn's campaign in the Stormlands rather than evidence of Godwyn's ownership. But even after removing the weakest interpretation, Castle Sol still matters. It shows that the traditions connected to storms, hawks, lightning, and old military orders survived beyond Stormveil. That creates two possible responses to Godfrey's conquest. Stormveil may represent absorption, Castle Sol may represent resistance or isolation. Stormveil is brought into a golden lineage. Castle Sol remains remote, masterless, or loyal to a dead order. And this is where Godwyn becomes especially relevant. If he inherited Stormveil, he may have represented a successful merging of Golden Lineage power with storm culture. The old warriors who accepted the new order could serve within his domain. Those who rejected it could remain in distant forts, masterless castles, or exiled companies. The result would be a fractured storm tradition. Some parts survive inside gold, other parts remain outside it. That makes the repeated presence of Banished Knights more meaningful. Their banishment may not refer to one crime or one ruler. It may reflect the political collapse of the culture they originally served. At this stage, I think the argument has escalated beyond symbols. Stormveil is no longer just a castle with hawks and wind. It becomes the center of political transition. Godfrey destroys the old order, Godwyn potentially reconciles part of it, Godrick inherits only the ruins. But the strongest clue is not a hawk, it's not an axe, it's not castle soul. It is the face beneath the Stormveil. Deep below the castle, Godwyn's corrupted likeness has grown into foundations. It is enormous, hidden, and treated as a discovery important enough to become the part of Roger's investigation into a Knight of the Black Knives. Before finding that face, Stormveil can be understood as a generic Golden Lineage fortress built over an old storm culture. After finding it, the castle becomes personally connected to Godwyn. The obvious objection is that Godwyn's death corrupted spreads across the lands between. His face appears in more than one location. The growth beneath Stormveil doesn't automatically prove he ruled the castle. That is true. But environmental storytelling is about placement, not only exclusivity. From Software placed one of the game's earliest and most memorable manifestations of Godwyn directly beyond the seat of the Golden Lineage in Limgrave. The castle is ruled by Godrick, a descendant obsessed with stolen ancestry. The hidden foundation contains the deformed face of Godwyn, the greatest lost priest of that ancestry. This is not neutral imaginary. It creates a contrast between the false heir above and the dead inheritance below. There is a theory that face may have been stolen, perhaps by Godrick, because someone connected to the castle would have needed access to it. At first, that sounds like a counter-argument. I think it may actually sharpen the theme. If the growth occurred naturally because Stormveil was connected to Godwyn, then the castle is literally becoming reclaimed by its former lord's death. If Godrick stole a fragment of Godwyn and brought it here, then he is once again grafting himself to a superior ancestor. Both interpretations lead to the same conclusion. Godrick's authority depends on Godwyn. This is a twist at the center of Stormveil. Godrick appears to be the castle's lord, but Godwyn finds its history, its legitimacy, and possibly even its physical corruption. Godrick had the throne, Godwyn has the foundations. And considering all of these, Godrick's grafting becomes more than a grotesque compatibility. It becomes the entire political condition of Stormveil. Godrick grafts himself onto dead warriors because his body is weak. He grafts himself onto the Golden Lineage because his blood is diluted. And all beneath all of those stolen claims lies Godwyn. I don't think the evidence proves that Godwyn lived permanently in Stormveil. The Elden Ring lore directly associates Godwyn with Leyndell, Fortissax, the Dragon Cult and the Knight of the Black Knives. It never explicitly names him Lord of Stormveil. The Hawk imagery is disputed. Castle Soul is connected to more than one soulless demigod, and storm weapons may originate from Godfrey's conquest rather than Godwyn's personal rule. But the theory doesn't need every clue to be exclusive. It only needs a political sequence to make sense. The Stormlord rules the old Storm lands. Godfrey defeats the Stormlord and claims those lands for the Golden Lineage. Godwyn, Godfrey's heroic heir, becomes the most plausible figure to inherit and integrate that territory. After Godwyn's death, the lineage fractures. Godrick eventually occupies Stormveil and treats its inherited power the same way he treats every other source of strength, as something to be stolen, displayed, and grafted into himself. This interpretation explains the castle better than the idea that Stormveil is simply Godrick's personal fortress. It explains why its traditions are older than him, why its warriors feel disconnected from him, why its scale overwhelms him, why he mutilates the creatures associated with its original identity rather than embodying their power. And it gives the face beneath the castle the narrative purpose. Stormveil is a tomb for a political inheritance. The old Stormlord is gone. Godfrey's age of conquest is gone. Godwyn, the prince who could have united gold, dragons and storms, is dead. All that remains is Godrick, attaching pieces of the past to himself and calling the result kingship. Godrick may sit on Stormveil's throne, but the Stormveil castle's history belonged to Godwyn. Thanks for watching, hit that like button and subscribe for more Elden Ring and other Souls-like games lore and guide videos, and stay sharp out there, Tarnished.